Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Beyond Connections, my trade's bi-monthly session for you guys to be able to ask us your questions about the market and our opinions on the listed stocks in the Philippines today. So today I'm joined by our senior analysts Herman
Hello, good afternoon.
and Rainer, and usually we have our technical analyst with us, but today he's taking a day off. So if you have any technical questions, maybe you can reserve that for our next session in 2 weeks. So while we wait, I didn't introduce myself. I'm sorry, I'm Bess. I'm one of the senior analysts of Abacus Series. I'll wait for your questions. Why don't we start with what you can comment on recent events on the market this past 2 weeks?
So for today, the PSEI closed at around 6539. So that's down 25 points or equivalent to a decline of 0.39%. So total value was a little under 3 billion. So liquidity in the market hasn't improved yet. But then, like in the past ilang months na to, no? So what do you think like possible catalyst that can stimulate liquidity in the market?
Well, it's not going to be an immediate effect, but hopefully, once we have had news in the past week that short selling has been approved by the SEC, so that could be one of the avenues for increased liquidity, although it also comes with higher risks for investors. But hopefully, it's a positive effect on when it's finally implemented. The approval has taken years. Um, maybe hopefully it will take shorter time for actual implementation for investors to be able to start.
And apart from that, I guess, well, we were expecting better liquidity after the inflation news came out this week. I think Chris can talk more about that. And I guess for this week, we have the Fed decision coming up next week, and then the BSP a week after that. So basically, the next 2 weeks are going to be crucial in possibly driving up volume or even confidence among investors. Kasi, given that I think there's still some uncertainty whether the Fed or the PSP will continue to hike rates or they will pause already. So I think a lot of investors and even traders are on wait and see approach. They're staying on the sidelines. So I guess once there is more uh, clarity and well, and I guess what you can say is for investors or traders, basically what they like to see or they don't like to see is the uncertainty. Nabanggit mo best yung short selling. So, siguro to ask you guys, what do you think is the most what interests you the most about
So we become uh, are more renowned
Wait,
or sorry,
Rainier, there's no audio, so hold that thought.
like, like since the start.
Okay, so thank you for letting us know that there was a technical problem on the audio. So maybe we can you can repeat what you said.
Alright, yeah, I guess the topic was on short selling and what are my insights?
Okay, we already have some questions on the chat box. So from Wong Pham, I hope I pronounced that correctly. When will SPNX start making money, or more specifically, have net income? Mostly, it's been money raising activities combined with market price stability efforts.
Okay, thank you for the question. So, ang daming developments on Aspen actually. So recently, the stock got suspended because float fell below the minimum 20%, and it's because the increase in ACS is already approved and it was issued already to the parent in exchange for the infusion of the assets into Espinet. So for the projects, most of it is all still in the pipeline, but SP Tarlac, so our Philippines Tarlac is already operating. That's 100 megawatts, and it's already registering profit. So that should already that should already be reflected in Espinec anytime soon. So that one should be positive for the stock. So for now, we are waiting for further develop for or further announcements from management on how they plan to go about in the planned private placements in order to lift their float up to the minimum of 20%. So, but one thing that to take away from here is that management is already planning to conduct the private placements even before the ACS was increased and approved. So we should just wait for further announcements from management.
There's a follow up question. Why do you think Levista sold its shares to MVP? Why not a primary share placement instead?
Mhm. Okay, so for that, as Cilian has always been parang open with this intention to look for potential partnerships when especially when it makes sense. So they said that they were like fortunate enough to partner up with MVP because of his caliber and his network. So Lian believes that the realization of their pipeline of projects would be I think it would be achieved faster with this partnership with MPI. So there, and I think it's the issuance of shares is a mix of primary and secondary. So so that's why Spinec will still receive some proceeds in order to be infused to its pipeline of projects.
Okay, so next question is from Annie Lynn. What do you think is the catalyst for the property sector to go up? Maybe I can put in some, well, my 2 cents. One of the reasons also why, well, apart from the work from home situation in the past and during the pandemic, when projects were the launch of projects in the property sector were um, slower or put on pause, put on hold. Um, the rise in interest rates over the past year has also been a deterrent for new home purchasers and has been uh, putting downward pressure on the demand for home loans. So that could be one of the reasons. Additionally, on why the property sector has languished over the past few years. Um, in the last policy or monetary board meeting of ESP, they already started pause on the rate. So if inflation continues to go down over this year, maybe mostly even next year, um, although we might not see rate cuts this year yet, that could be coming over the medium term. So that could be one of the catalysts for the property sector if the cost of funding not just home purchases for the end users of the real estate, also for the developer, that could be a catalyst for the sector. What do you
And then also, if you look at the sectors under the property sector, it's right now it's really the office that's been lagging. Yeah, and it's because of what Beth said earlier, because of the persistent work from home setup. But if you look at malls and hotels, most of them have already exceeded pre-pandemic or are already nearing pre-pandemic because of the return of consumer spending and revenge travel. So that's why we still prefer those property companies that are heavy on these subsegments, retail and hotels. So in order to take advantage of this rebound in consumer spending.
Okay, so while we wait for more questions, we received a couple of offline questions earlier. So from John, pure gold is always your pick, but for 2 years now, in my portfolio, I don't see any progress. What's your take on this?
Uh, but Puregold now, well, I agree on that sentiment that it's been 2 years and pretty much Puregold's price has been sideways. This is coming after uh, Puregold boom during the pandemic, during the early part of the pandemic when it hit 50 plus because, well, I think only the supermarkets were open at that time. So there were a lot of expectations on pure gold. It rose to close to 51, I think, or 52. But given what has happened in the past 2 years since 2021, it hasn't really, or it's more on the downtrend, or more on sideways downtrend. Uh, but what we've heard, or oh, sorry, what we have been seeing from Pure Gold in terms of its earnings. In the past few years, it has been growing. It has been growing double digits, not only for top line but also for bottom line. So basically, even that its price is going down and earnings were growing. So pretty much what we've seen in the past few years that it has gotten cheaper, cheaper and cheaper, and then it didn't really help that we in the past year it was a high inflationary period where historically consumer stocks haven't really done well during the high inflationary period, so similar to 2018 and such. Then apart from that, management is aware naman when it comes to their price performance. So they've been doing efforts in trying to address those. Um, One is they've also set a buyback program. So they've launched it. I think they've been buying at 28, 29, 30. Current levels is good 30, but we haven't seen much buyback yet. Dividends, they've been growing dividends since 2021. So I think last year it was, or 2021, it was a mere 75 cents. Then last year, 2022, or end of 2022, they announced 86 cents. So they've been trying to increase dividends to boost investor confidence na rin. Um, And then for their outlook, uh, it's interesting to see that Puregold, especially this year, because last year they didn't really open SNR warehouses. So a lot of their earnings potential din kasi it is coming from the SNR rather than the Puregold brand. Because the SNR, it's higher margin, and at the same time, even if it's higher capex or higher opex, they're practically earning more. So even yung ratio niya ngayon is mas madaming pure gold stores. Mas kumikita na siya ngayon. It has higher earnings from the SNR side. So they're opening four this year. And at the same time, pure gold this year, they've started their initial foray in Cebu. So they opened their first stores in Cebu, and they're planning to do more. So it's quite surprising actually that over in the past years they there weren't uh, pure gold or SNR stores in Cebu, given it's a big city here in the Philippines. So I guess for us who are in Metro Manila, it's difficult to believe, but I guess for those who live in Cebu, in normal. So anyway, apart from that, although we
I just want to add then SNR's target market tends to be more resilient against inflation. So I think that's part of why it's grown over the past few months or
yeah,
quarters.
yeah, that's correct. That SNR, ayun, apart from yun nga, um, it's also targeting the A, B, and even high C. So they've been the ones who are resilient to inflation. And at the same time, yung strategy kasi ni SNR, they didn't really increase prices much over the past year, even if their competitors have done so, because they are focusing more on driving top line rather than maintaining margins. Although their margins have been hit, pero hindi naman significant. So I think it's fair to say that their strategy has been working. And if you want to read more on Pure Gold, we just wrote on it last Monday. So it's more of a it's also an in-depth discussion on Pure Gold, and basically we reiterate our accumulate or buy on Pure Gold.
Yeah. Oh, one thing to note though, of the index members currently, Pure Gold has the lowest market capitalization. So it's although we don't expect it to be deleted in this upcoming recomposition in August, if it continues to experience weakness in its price and while other stocks are uh, rising, especially um, the contenders for index addition like Bloom or CNPF or RHI or even nickel, if it continues to languish in terms of price performance, it could be deleted on its own merely because the market cap has been reduced, or if something if one of the stocks shoots up, it could get displaced. And also if SM REIT lists soon, the market cap of SM REIT is quite the expected market cap of SM REIT is quite high. If I'm not mistaken, it's a possible um, index contender even before the usual 12 month. If since the market cap is so big, expected, so we don't know exactly what the market cap will be, but the expected level is already quite big. So it could if it lists at that um, if it lists while P gold is still experiencing weakness in price, it could be displaced. Although this is a very long term view since we're looking at more than 12 months perform price performance for the index recomposition. And in line with that, there's a question here from Cesar Norman Kalamay. Which stock will you think will replace MPI if it gets listed? We actually just wrote about this today. Um, the question of whether MPI will be delisted soon is still up in the air since the vote, the shareholder vote on the application to delist has been deferred. So we don't know yet the timeline of when this will actually occur, and the timing is very important on um, on determining which stock will replace it, since the movements of the candidates, the price movements of the candidates can be quite sharp, and it would depend on what the market cap of those candidates will be at the time of the delisting, or when or if the tender offer is successful. So since we don't have that timeline yet, it's hard to compute which stock has the highest market cap, which will determine whether it will be the one to replace API in the index. But currently, our public confidence sabihin. Currently, based on the levels right now, we, there is already a clear candidate. It is the one that's the market expected. Even earlier, when MPI first announced its intention. So if you want to know explicitly which stock that is, you can sign up for MyTrade and read our report. But yes, we already have a clear contender for that if it were to happen this coming August. Although that is still quite a bit unpredictable, since we don't know how the PSE will interpret the deferment, and also at the same time, MPI already expressed its intention to delist, so that could also be interpreted as keeping it in the index will make the index unreliable as um, as
Benchmark.
a benchmark of the broader market. There's a follow up question on SPNEC from Juan Pham. Is there uh, where was it? Whether the share swap whether the share swap will happen or not doesn't matter. Whether and when SPNEC will acquire SPPPHI's share in various huge project matters, right?
Sorry, ulit. I think whether the share swap will happen or not doesn't matter.
So which one matters more? Is it the acquisition of
PHI.
SPPPHI's shares in various projects, or when the share swap will happen?
Parang they're connected. They're connected kasi ipapasok yung assets kapag the share swap happens. So I don't think we can like separate the two. And right now, since na-issue na yung shares kay SPPHI, then the assets can now be infused into SPNEC. So the primary concern now is to lift the suspension by pushing through with the private placement.
Okay. What else? Bakit?
I think
What?
we only have
Okay, I think we can choose our last question now for
yeah.
today. Our sessions are usually just 30 minutes, so if you have further questions, you can keep sending them in, and we can answer for our MyTrade clients. We can answer them in our FB group, MyTrade map, or also you can tune into our next episode in 2 weeks' time. So what's the last question that you want to address? What do you want?
We'll see.
Pinaka-juicy question. It's not very juicy.
It's-
This one?
ano yan? Hindi ko mabasa.
From CG. What do you think is the reason behind the market sentiment, and what will be the catalyst that can trigger the market to play catch up with other markets hitting new highs? Mm, well, we already mentioned earlier today that the U.S. Fed is expected to come up with their policy decision next week, and then after that, the week after that, the SB will um, come up with their own policy decision. But I think one of the things that the market is anticipating also is not just on the interest rate decision, but also on how much and when exactly the BSP will reduce its reserve requirement rate for banks. That could release quite a bit of liquidity, which could eventually trickle into the stock market. What do you think would be catalyst?
Yeah, I think for me, the main determining factor is the Fed. So I think the latest jobless report still points to a Fed rate hike. So that's why markets are still jittery about that. So if if markets feel that the Fed is already easing its monetary tightening, then I think that's it's possible, it's probable that the markets will, will turn around.
And I think apart from that, well in addition, uh, I guess all those factors are in play. And at the same time, what we've observed prior, the PSEI will simply track or has been tracking what's happening in the US markets. Although recently we haven't seen really much of that. If, for example, the US markets are up a lot or a few percentage point, PSEI will be flat. And I think a lot of factors are also in play. So, for example, inflation in the Philippines is, uh, has been in line with expectations, but it hasn't gone down as much as in other countries, even compared to the US. And at the same time, I think also the forex rate, so USD to BHP is hovering at 56 and above. And for example, what we've seen last year, during the 56 to 59, the PSE index has been, I guess, what you can say is an inverse relationship between the two. So, well, that's also a factor because if we're at that range in terms of the exchange rate, corporate earnings are also pressured. So that may also be a factor. So once it ano naman appreciates, I guess we will see some catalyst or reprieve from the weakness in market sentiment.
Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you for all the questions, and we hope we can also answer them next time for you on our next episode of Beyond Connections. Bye.